David and Taco, they bring that heat. All about UFC, way more than a fantasy. Let's see who going toe to toe. Throw down on the mat, check the replay, run it back. We gotta check the stats. Hey, do this every day. We ain't come to play. This is sports talk, and we love talking MMA. Everything fantasy sports. Dopest show that I know. With Electric Dave and talented Mr. Taco. Let's go. Hey, G.
What is up, everybody? It's the TDS Blitz. I am TDS Taco, and we got Ricky here as always, going over some fantasy football rankings. Now, before we get started with this special edition of wide receiver rankings, I got a question for you, Ricky.
Sure.
Last season, how many wide receivers had over 10 touchdowns?
Wide receivers had over 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
Was it only, I wouldn't say 2? 3?
No. There were 7 wide receivers that had over 10 touchdowns. 7. Can you name 5?
All right, so I'm assuming Stefan Diggs, Devonte Adams.
Well, I'd like to correct you here. Devonte Adams definitely did. He had the most touchdowns. He had 18. He was number 1. Stefan Diggs, though, did not have over 10 touchdowns.
He did not have over.
No, he did not.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, he was number 2. He had 15 touchdowns.
Ridley.
No, he did not make the top 10. Did not have over 10 touchdowns last season.
Let me see who else. Damn, who else?
Look up. We don't want you looking down. No cheating.
No,
2
I'm
more
trying
guesses.
to do the receivers.
2 more guesses. I'll give you one hint. Metcalf is one of them. Okay.
And I think Hopkins had 9.
Hopkins.
Was he 10?
Hopkins did not have 9, nor did he have 10.
10. What do you have?
Hopkins, who
are the other players?
I actually have to look up and see what Hopkins is because he was not that high up on touchdowns. Last season's touchdown breakdown goes as follows. Number 1 was Devonte Adams with 18. Number 2 was Tyreek Hill with 15. Number 3, Adam Thielen, 14 touchdowns, really being under the radar lately. Mike Evans was number 4 with 13 touchdowns. A.J. Brown was number 5 with 11 touchdowns. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were tied for 6 and 7 with 10 touchdowns each. And those are the 7 guys that actually went over 10 touchdowns last season.
Oh.
Stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, breaking it down right now, even though we saw everything that happened, we both have a different player as the number 1 wide receiver for our rankings. Ricky, let's start it off with you. Who do you have as your number 1 receiver?
Let me just pull up the list.
It shows.
Oh, you have the list. Okay, great.
It shows Stefan Diggs as your number 1. I have him as my number 1 as well, but I'll let you go first.
To me, you saw what happened when he got a quarterback, right? We saw when he got a. I think everything last year what he did is he's really proved to probably be one of the best receivers in the game. I don't see how you could say that. I mean, is he going to do exactly the same? Probably not, but I don't see a drop. Josh Allen has gotten better every year. Diggs in his first year already showed you what with Josh Allen he could do. To me, Josh Allen is going to be better than he was last year. It just happens to be the case every year since he's entered the football league. That he's gotten better every year. So to me, again, I think Diggs is the obvious choice. Adams, to me, again, is up there with Diggs, but the only issue is the Aaron Rodgers. But I do believe Aaron Rodgers is gonna be playing for the Green Bay. So I believe I have him ranked as what? Number 2?
So
no, 3.
Right. So right now you have Adams as 3. Personally, I think Hill and Diggs are right there, and Adams and Ridley. I think all 4 of them, you can make a case for them being the number 1 wide receiver coming into the season. I think all 4 are going to have their different perspectives. Ridley, I think that his volume is going to go up even more than it did last season because as we saw for last season, Julio Jones missed at least 7 games. And I think that, when you look at what Ridley's done, he was the number 5 wide receiver on the season last year. But I feel like he could convert so many more of his opportunities. And there's a possibility that he could push up over the 150 target mark, which makes him very interesting to me.
But don't you also feel somewhat about Hopkins where it's not like he look at the numbers he put up, and it's not this, we never really talked about Hopkins as being the top receiver last year. He had his moments, but he also had games where he kind of didn't show up. I could say the same that he's going to do better this year.
I can't see how Hopkins is going to do better now that you add AJ Green and you drafted Rondell Moore.
I mean, AJ Green to me is not the same AJ Green.
He's still not the same AJ Green, but last season Hopkins was the only real receiver they had on that team. I just don't see him.
I think the other two, what they do is they take away some of the attention. Again, I think they give some relief, but they're not going to be.
I don't see how Hopkins targeted. 160 targets again with you adding those 2 huge weapons.
To me, the AJ Green is not a huge weapon.
AJ Green is still going to get burned. Like
to me, he's not a huge weapon. He's not going to affect Hopkins. If anything, he'll maybe help him. But they'll have to keep some type of.
And he only had 6 touchdowns. Like I can't see Hopkins doing better than 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns like that. Like he's not going to significantly do better. Like even if how many yards do you have him getting? You have him getting what? 2,000 yards?
No, I can see him getting the 1,400 and more touchdowns, double digits. 9.
I don't see that. That no.
I can see that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I think he played with a hurt Murray a lot of games.
No,
and not at full strength. I think Murray Hopkins
even the season before that when he was with Watson, 7 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. I don't see him making this huge touchdown leap. It's possible, yes, but in my opinion, it's not probable. I'm not going to sit there and bank on it. Whereas what I've seen the production from Jones, I've seen the way that Ryan hyper targets his main guy. And with there being no competition for Ridley, I do like Ridley over Hopkins. I
have to see Ridley do it on his own. I mean, I know the numbers
are last good year on his own.
No, you're right. The numbers are good when Julio was out, but he's I don't know. He's going to be the main focal point. There is no other one.
There's Kyle Pitts and there's Gage and these other guys. I really think that you're underestimating how good Pitts is going to be in this season, how much opportunity he's going to give to Ridley. I think the one guy that we have here who was bar none by far the best wide receiver, Devonte Adams, who had put up 358.4 points last season with ridiculous catch numbers of 115 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 18 touchdowns, a whopping 18 touchdowns. Last season, him and Aaron Rodgers were on absolute fire together. I don't think it's really possible to replicate a season like that, the one that Devonte Adams had. Like even when we go back and we look at Michael Thomas's crazy year where he put up, a little bit more points than Devonte Adams did, he did it on the back of his catches because he had 149 catches to go with his 9 touchdowns. These catches are fucking huge because they're just 1 point each. 6 catches are equal to 1 touchdown. So with that being said, I don't think that Adams can replicate scoring like this because what are the odds he gets 18 touchdowns again? He could get 10 touchdowns, and that's a good season for a wide receiver, as we've seen for touchdowns. So I think that there's going to be some touchdown regression with the Packers. I don't know what to expect out of Aaron Rodgers. Well, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back with the Packers. I don't know what version of Aaron Rodgers I'm going to get. I don't know how sharp he is going to be once the season starts because he's not having some of these pre-camp workouts and being able to stay on the page like he was last year.
Yeah, they didn't have that. They didn't have that last year. And look what he did. They
That's
didn't have
not
training
true.
camp last year.
They worked out. He was with
Yeah.
the team the whole time. He's
Yeah.
not with the team now.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers, they didn't have training camp. They didn't have all the things that they normally do. He still came out there and balled. To me, Aaron Rodgers is someone that doesn't need the off training camp thing. Show him the plans, the plays. He's going to get it. He's going to know what to do. He changes them at the line.
Tell me that, but let's look at what Aaron Rodgers did this season before. I think so many people are forgetting the fact that Aaron Rodgers was pedestrian in his first season.
But that was the first season. That was
26 touchdowns the whole year. And Devonte Adams had 18 touchdowns for the whole year last year.
I get it, but that was a bad year for Rodgers. 26 and 4 interceptions. So it just tells you what a bad year is for Rodgers. What most things. And again, he's not gonna. The Green Bay's not. If he scores 20, they're not going anywhere with 26 touchdowns.
Yes, but you're banking on Aaron Rodgers coming back and being a MVP. You are banking on that. You're literally saying Aaron Rodgers, who had 48-5, you had 20 more touchdowns than the previous year. You're going to come back out here and do Aaron Rodgers. You literally are throwing leaps and bounds over everybody else. You're going to keep that up. I'm just really worried.
I would put more faith in Rodgers saying keeping that closer than dropping significantly.
I mean, I don't know.
I could definitely see him getting 40 touchdowns. I don't see how if he comes back healthy, ready to go, and I could see him getting 40 touchdowns again, Steve. That to me is more believable than him getting 26 touchdowns. That is less believable of that happening again than him getting 40 touchdowns.
I don't know. I'm not sold. Who's the number 2 wide receiver for the
they love Jones, they love Tanya, they love Adams. Adams is the main guy always every year.
Tanya again was the touchdown numbers these guys are putting up are irreplicable. Let's break this down even further here for Green Bay. 18 touchdowns for Adams. Let's do this even better, right? Receiving touchdowns for this team. 18 for Adams, 11 for Tanyan, 6, 3, 3, 2, 1. God for to me, everything went to Adams.
The Green Bay has now become an offense where you plug someone in and they become good. Lazard was nothing before, and look, I mean,
he was nothing this season. He got 97 points for the year. But he played 10 games.
But what I'm saying to you, you're talking about touchdowns. They get touchdowns to everyone. They spread it out to everybody. Devontae's going to get his double digits.
I mean, you could say they spread it out to everyone, but if you look at it, he threw 48 touchdowns last season, and 29 of them were to 1 to 2 players. He could spread it out all he wants. He heavily targets his guys, and I just don't know. Like, for me to sit here and bank on this again to reach.
So what do you think of Aaron Rodgers? So how many touchdowns are we? If you're talking 26, I think you're out of your mind. If you're talking about what's a bad season? What are you saying then? 26? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I'm saying that I don't expect.
Okay, forget about what you expect. It's not.
I don't expect.
So what are you talking about? The regression is how bad is the regression? What you're saying?
There's no way Adams is putting up those numbers. He's going to have probably half.
Steve, I'm just asking.
Let me finish.
Regression is.
He. When we're looking at what's going to happen with Adams, there is no way he's going to maintain 18 touchdowns. He's probably going to have half. And you're going to say that's a good year. 9 touchdowns? Yeah, because let's look at what he did in 2019. How many touchdowns did Devonte Adams have that season?
11. What do you have?
Oh, Mr. Injury Prone was injured that season. He had 5 touchdowns.
What about the year before? Oh, we
can't go back that far on this.
But that was a hurt season.
Let's see. Devonte Adams still played 12 games. 5 touch. I just don't think that if people are coming into the season expecting him to get 15 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns as a realistic target, I think that you have to be looking at hopefully 10. He's gonna have regression. You don't get this. Like he only had.
To me, he's gonna get 12 to 14 touchdowns.
I just don't see it. I just can't see a guy who's one, consistently been hurt throughout his career, and two, who's never done this to be able to repeat such a ridiculous season with the percentage of touchdowns that he had last season. When you look at the comparison of what the wide receiver position has done, I think that it's fool's gold to chase it. I think he's good, but with everything going on right now, I do like the other guys above him as being a little bit more of a secure option. But like I said, the top four guys are the top four guys, and they're interchangeable in my eyes.
Right.
Now, when we get down to the next part, everything that I was saying about Hopkins, I reflect in my rankings. I do have Hopkins under guys like Metcalf and Brown because I think both these guys explode out and become like that Stefan Diggs type receiver. Metcalf, as we saw last season, he had 271 points. He had 83 receptions, 10 touchdowns, 1,300 yards. He continuously got better as the season went on. Him and Lockett were like almost dead even in targets, but I definitely think that this year Metcalf starts to take a press up. And then the next guy that I had said here was Brown. And as we saw with AJ Brown last season, he put up some really good numbers when he was playing. He didn't start the season healthy, but when he did play, he was fantastic. He only played 14 games in the season. He had 70 catches, 11 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards.
I think that was the most impressive thing, that he was hurt most of the season.
Well, he played 14 games. He played 14 to 16.
But he was, no, when I mean hurt, he played hurt. He said afterwards he was playing hurt.
Yeah.
He never really felt healthy, and he still put up those numbers. Yeah. Now you add Julio into the mix. Mm-hmm. You know, I know how it could affect him, but it could also help him.
And the thing about Brown, which I really love, is that he has big playability, and he could take the top off of any defense. So I think that having a guy like Julio can really help him because he likes to expand the field, and having a guy like Julio in the middle to kind of get their attention will give him some opportunities to really blow the top off. Hopkins, I have him ranked at 8. Ricky has him at 6 or 5. But we were just talking about what we think about Hopkins, so we really don't need to go over that. But the next guy that we have some differential here with is Robinson and Jefferson and Thomas. We have these guys kind of just, rolled about. I have Robinson, Thomas, and Jefferson pretty much on the same tier, but I'd probably take Robinson and Thomas over Jefferson, whereas Ricky has Jefferson higher than even AJ Brown on his rankings. So, Ricky, tell me a little bit about AJ Jefferson and why you're
I mean, you saw really what he was missing throughout the season was just the touchdowns, right? I think
he had 7 touchdowns and 1,400 yards.
Yeah, and again, and I still say he didn't get a lot because Thielen and Cousins just have an unbelievable rapport right at the end zone. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see it with Thielen. Again, he was one of the top 7, right? He was one of the 7 that had
touchdowns. Number 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's really what you saw the difference between Thielen and for whatever reason, Cousins in the red zone. They have a chemistry. He goes to him all the time. You see it in the numbers last year. That is the only thing that's holding back Jefferson, and he still got 7 touchdowns. The upside to me for him is unbelievable. He could be what Diggs was last year, to be honest with you, to me.
And for me, I think everything you said about Adam Thielen is exactly why I don't have him there. I don't see Justin Jefferson all of a sudden taking Adam Thielen's workload. Like, Adam Thielen is still a really good player in this league, and I don't think he's going to disappear. And that's why I don't have Jefferson over some of the other guys. Now, you could say, well, if you're talking about Jefferson and Thielen, then why aren't you mentioning Brown in that same case? And if you look at it, I have Brown, a little bit above Jefferson, but I just personally think that Brown, with more seasoning under his belt, is a player that I like a little bit more. Like Ricky was saying, he did a lot of stuff with injury last year and still put up insane numbers. Like, when you look at the point difference here, it's only about 30 points between these two players, and Jefferson definitely had way more targets. So I think that as Brown starts to get back into shape and is healthy, I think his upside to me is ridiculous. But everything about Jefferson is totally true. He does possess great upside, but I think when you look at that team and the rapport that Thielen has, it scares me a little bit. One thing that we could talk about rapport, and that's something that Thomas and Robinson won't have with their quarterbacks, because you're going to have a new quarterback for both teams. both the Bears and the Saints this year will be using new quarterbacks, and these two guys have been perennial powerhouses. Robinson has been a consistent top 10 performer, and Thomas, as we saw 2 years ago, put up one of the best seasons ever for a wide receiver. He even outscored last year's Adams season because he had over 150 catches. What are your feelings so far on those two guys, Robinson and Thomas?
Well, to me, again, when you say they have different, they're going to have to build a rapport with the quarterback. One, I think Robinson welcomes that from Trubisky, right? So yep. I think there it's a pro, not a con. Mm-hmm. I think because of that, Robinson's actually going to do better. Mm-hmm. And to me, Thomas, that's the big one, because Thomas. Mm-hmm. He had the injury, so you could chalk up that, last year was just the injury part, right? Mm-hmm. But you have two different quarterbacks going for the position, and depending on who gets it, completely changes, to me, the value of Thomas. You have Watson go in there, what he's done with Evans and those big guys, right? He throws it downfield, throws 30 touchdowns. So, if he gets Winston to start, that his volume is going to go up now, right? But again, if Hill comes in now you have a problem, right? Because now Hill's more of a running quarterback. The plays are set up for him. But I think last year, even when Hill was there, I think he still got the ball to Thomas. So it's not like they completely out of sync. It's not that either. But I do think Winston brings up the value of Thomas way more than what Hill would do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I think regardless, Thomas is going to be really a safe play this year because either way, they're going to have to use him. I think we started to see Hill expand himself as a passer throughout that season as he was going. And we start to see some games where Hill and Thomas were actually playing pretty good because Hill became almost like Drew Brees with that slant to the slot to Thomas, which is what all Thomas owners would be looking for. Because if remember, his magical season was really magical. Like he had 374 points. He had 150 catches. Like
it was ridiculous.
His top end is top end. Now, once we get here, we're looking at the 11 and 12 guy who we have flip-flopped, and it's Keenan Allen and Scary Terry. One thing about Scary Terry that I will note is that he hasn't had a season where he's finished above wide receiver 19 or wide receiver 20. Terry is a really dynamic player. He has, last season he had 134 targets, 87 receptions for 1,118 yards and 4 touchdowns. Terry is someone who's never really had good quarterback play. Terry will benefit from having a guy like Fitzpatrick under center this season. I think that Terry has a lot of upside, and I do like him. But it's also a little scary because we do have guys like Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, and it is a new situation. So we have to see who actually, Fitzpatrick builds that rapport with and who becomes his go-to guy or the guy we get.
To me, again,
Terry seems like he's going to be that guy, but again, we don't know.
To me, Terry, I had him the first 2 years. He's shown to me, and I think one of the biggest compliments you could give, I guess, any player, a receiver, offense, is they say there's no defense that could keep Terry. He goes, defense coordinator said, we do this defense, we do this, we do that. It's no matter what, he gets open. And then you alluded to, he had no quarterbacks. It's been, musical chairs of quarterbacks that he's at, and he still put up numbers. Like you said, he's not maybe in the top 15, but again, look at what he's been working with, right? I think now with Fitzpatrick, I said it in one of our other videos, to me, he's the most intriguing quarterback coming into a season, starting a new quarterback. He will change that whole offense in reality and in fantasy. If you get the good Fitzpatrick that the Jets got or that Miami got, right? I'm sorry, that offense now all of a sudden becomes a problem. Now you have, Logan Thomas, Terry. I mean, those guys, all of a sudden their value becomes much higher than what you expected. Again, depending on what Fitzpatrick. Let's be honest, Fitzpatrick is the traveling man for a reason. You don't know what you're going to get from him, but I think he's the most intriguing. I have all the confidence in Terry. He has huge upside. He's done a lot with very little.
And I think the biggest thing that you're gonna have to watch with Terry is his touchdowns, because they are relatively, low, and we
Right.
have to see what happens in the red zone, because Antonio Gibson is really being, I feel like, slept on for the sake of this conversation, because I feel like he's going to be someone that's going to be supremely involved even with Fitzpatrick. And I think that whether it be the passing game or the running game, Gibson could become the red zone beast. And that could end up hurting Terry's overall potential, because again, if he's getting under 10 touchdowns, if he's staying in this range, he's going to really need to get a lot of catches and yards to boost his value up. So that's going to be really interesting, is how they use red zone, how many touchdowns Terry can try to snag out. And, that's going to be the big question mark as we go into this part of the season. So after that, we have a couple of guys available on the page. And Ricky, who did you have ranked next?
So on my on the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
so we're at Terry. So then we had Cooper, Woods, Lamb after Terry and Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And
tell
Godwin.
me a little bit how you feel about Cooper, because I feel like Cooper is one of those guys that we have differing viewpoints on and differing beliefs on. So tell me a little bit how you feel about Cooper.
Again, to me, Cooper has been, ever since he got to Dallas, before Dallas, you didn't know what you had in Cooper, right? In the Raiders, it was always a question mark. Is he going to be that quarterback? Is he there? He would get lost in the shuffle. I think he's been completely different in Dallas. He's shown you what he could be, a number one, lower number one wide receiver. I think he showed you what with Dak, what he could do. I do believe CeeDee Lamb is a breakout year. But I still think Dak is going to look at Cooper more as his number one option. I think people, they kind of sleep on Cooper for some reason. They don't give him much credit as I believe he deserves. My only thing is I do believe CeeDee Lamb takes an extra step there this year. I think it's a breakout year for CeeDee Lamb.
Yep, and I'm in that same agreement with you, and I think that's really showing the rankings. But for me, you have Cooper at 13, and you have Lamb at 15. I have Lamb at 14, above where you have Lamb, and I have Cooper down here at 19. I am not as much of a believer in Cooper. I think that this is a situation where you could pretty much look at it like the Vikings, where Jefferson is going to be the number one and Thielen is that number two. I think you're going to see that happening here with the Cowboys. Jefferson is going to be their number one wide receiver. I think Cooper is going to end up becoming the number two guy to offset and help out. But when we look at what we saw last season, CeeDee Lamb did outperform him. CeeDee Lamb had a pretty good season. He had 74 catches. He was using the run game. He had 5 touchdowns. He was shortly under 1,000 yards. And I think that when you get a guy like Dak Prescott back, CeeDee Lamb might be the one who gets the most benefit from it, because him and Dak had a great connection. And I feel like that it's something that could really bloom into this season, into a much bigger and better scenario. And another thing is, I don't really trust Cooper to stay healthy and to produce. He's just someone that I just don't want or trust. I had him for a few years in Oakland. I've seen him with the Raiders, and honestly, I'd rather take Lamb, or I'd rather just avoid the situation all total.
Yeah, no, I don't have Cooper that low. I have him actually. Like I said, I think you're underestimating what he's done in Dallas.
Honestly, I like let's just pull it up. Amari Cooper last season, he did outscore Jefferson. Cowboys. He had 236 points last season. He had 92 catches for 1,114 yards and 5 touchdowns. If we look at what he did in 2019, he had roughly around the same season, 79 catches, 1,189 yards and 8 touchdowns. I don't really see him doing better than that. Like, that's his ceiling. He is not doing any better than that. He's about a 230, 240 guy. I could see CeeDee Lamb hitting 250, 260. I could see CeeDee Lamb breaking into that, Justin Jefferson type territory.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say that CeeDee Lamb is going to take over Cooper. So I do believe Cooper will do a little bit better than that, and he will probably do better than Lamb could get up there, but Lamb could get up there. Yeah, I do believe Lamb could get up there, but it's such a dynamic. They're going to be playing, tight games or from behind. Their defense isn't getting that much better. They air it out more than any other team, football.
Yep, and I think that's why when I look at that, I do see like I said, Cooper's nice, but I more trust what I saw out of Lamb and the possibility of his upside and him being that next elite guy versus going with Cooper and hoping that he comes around. Like if I'm looking at that same pick, I would rather pick Lamb over Cooper because I think Lamb has a bigger upside and a bigger potential to blow up.
But do you believe? But Cooper is more consistent, so Lamb could blow up, but Lamb can not even do what he did last year.
I don't see him being worse than last season.
No, I don't know. My issue with Lamb is I have to see. I think it's a breakout year, but I to say that he cannot do worse than last year, he can.
So you think it's going to be a breakout year, but he's going to do worse than last year?
No. What I'm saying to you is, I think he has a breakout year. What I'm saying to you is, you're right. You might be right about Cooper. He might not do that much better. I believe you do a little better than that. But I think that is the minimum you'll get with him. Where Lamb, you are hoping you get what you're thinking, but there's a possibility he doesn't even get that. And Cooper, more than anything, will get what he did the first 2 years.
In my opinion, you have it flipped. I think we're starting to see Cooper's decline. I don't trust Cooper with his health. I don't trust Cooper.
The last 2 years with no Dak last year, like you said, he put up the same numbers.
Yeah,
consistently. So he had Andy Dalton as a quarterback,
and he plays through his injury.
So again, that's what I'm saying. So he's more of a consistent with you. You are more to believe that he's going to get what he's going to get than what CeeDee Lamb.
But remember, CeeDee Lamb didn't even start the season as that.
No, he did. He started.
They worked. He had some big plays, but they still had to work him in. Gallup was still the number 2 guy.
I think the first 3-4 weeks, he had a pretty good rapport with that.
He had a pretty good rapport, but let's put it like this. Gallup was still the wide receiver 2 as far as play calling was going. You weren't getting as much action on the field for Lamb. To me, if you're drafting for safety, you're taking Cooper. If you're drafting for upside, you're going.
Well, it depends where you're getting him, and depends what other wide receiver you have.
Well, I'm saying if you're drafting if you're looking at these players, you're taking Cooper for safety. Personally, I'm taking Lamb for upside. I have Woods over Cooper. You have Cooper over Woods. To me, I think Bobby Trees, even though he doesn't get the touchdowns, is one of the safest players that you can get at PPR because he's a guaranteed workload. And I love the upgrade that he's getting with Stafford. So I love Woods this season. I like him more than Cooper. But again, we see this differently. You're much more of a believer in Cooper. I'm much more a believer. I think that the youth is going to eventually take over. And by the end of the season, at the very least, Lamb will become the most dominant in that backfield. And again, you have Cooper and Lamb right there.
Right.
So it's very close. For me, I have Godwin right there with after Lamb, which you have right after Lamb as well. I think Godwin offers good upside. If you're going to talk about any of the receivers to roster, in that situation, I'm definitely leaning more towards Godwin.
Yeah, I do like Godwin. I do believe. I think Mike Evans is someone that, he put up numbers last year and he put up touchdowns, but that's a lot what he did. There was games where he didn't get anything.
Yeah.
And so he was very touchdown dependent. He sometimes didn't play with Godwin, so he was the only option. So I do believe with Evans there is some, the numbers are a little skewed, right? Because I don't see him getting 13 touchdowns. I don't
That's
see
one
Mike.
thing I can say about Mike Evans consistently is that he is a good touchdown guy. He had 8 touchdowns the year
But
before.
I don't see him this year getting 13 touchdowns. I don't
I,
see him getting. I can see him not getting double digits.
I mean, in his last 2 seasons, he has 8 and 13. I don't really see him going much. Like I'll see him at a 10. He's a great red zone guy. The biggest issue for him is he's not going to get enough catches and yards because if you look at what
Well,
he did,
but that's what I mean. Last year, those 13 made the difference between.
right? But you're
What-
saying he's not going to get the touchdowns.
I'm not. So I'm saying right. So if he gets 8 or 9, and then he puts up the yards that he's putting up, that's that to me is that's a hit.
I mean, yes, but I mean, if you're talking about, let's just say he's going down to 9, you're talking about at 6 points a touchdown, you're only talking about 24 points off the score. So while that is a hit, it's not like a gut one. Like
It's not that it's a gut one, but if you're going to talk about that and then Cooper and Mike Evans is more likely not to have put up the numbers that he did last year. Then,
well, I mean, I have Evans ranked lower than Cooper anyway.
right?
So, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So to me, Evans, the numbers are skewed with him.
I have both of them on the lower end.
Yeah, I have him more. I have him skewed. I have Evans' numbers skewed from last year. I think you do a lot worse. And then everyone's healthy. Tom Brady has I don't see him going to Evans that much.
I mean, I don't like you. What do you mean by much worse? You think that he's not going to be a top?
Well, he's not going to be in double digits. I think the yardage goes down.
So you don't think he's a top 20 wide receiver?
I could see him being out. Yeah, I can see him being out of the top 20.
I mean, that's fair. It's very possible.
I could see him being out of the top 20. Definitely.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And then the next guy that we have here, Julio Jones, I'm slightly above where you have him. And, well, 3 guys here, Kupp, Thielen, and Jones. Kupp I have ranked higher than you. Thielen we have ranked at the same. And Jones I have ranked a little bit higher than you. Honestly, tell me what you think about Kupp this season. We really didn't go into Woods, so I think Woods and Kupp right here makes sense.
Again, Kupp is getting the upgrade in Stafford. I just don't. I'll be honest with you. Kupp to me is always that because he normally gets more of the touchdowns than Woods, right? Woods doesn't get as many touchdowns as Kupp. What did Cubs have last year?
I'll tell you right now, but keep going.
But yeah, to me, I really have to see what they do with Stafford. But I think the more weapons he has, the better.
Woods only had 3 touchdowns last season.
Yeah. Also, he only had 3. So to me, that it's a very weird. I like Woods more than Kupp, but I think it's one of those offenses where it can almost go split. You know what I mean? Like it's like not one of them does really break out from the other one.
Yep, I agree.
And that's my biggest problem with those two. Even though I think Woods is the better pick, right? I do have an issue where I believe it could be one of those things where none of them really break out, and you just have really 2 good receivers that Stafford uses, and none of them, you might have it again where one gets 7, the other one gets 4, but none of them are getting 11.
But
touchdowns.
I think that's the one thing where in PPR formats, I don't like when people overemphasize the touchdown. To me, the overemphasis should be on the receptions.
Right.
Because that's where your points are banked. And the one thing that we can say about Bobby Trees and Kupp, receptions.
Yeah.
90 receptions for Woods, 92 receptions for Kupp. I don't see that changing. I see them both being at least at 90 or higher. But the yardage really plays out the way that you're saying, that it's kind of split 974 to 936. The biggest key and the biggest difference for this team is that these guys are getting those catches to buoy their value. And that is the most underrated thing. Touchdowns are sweet.
But we also got to know that Higbee's there too. So
Higbee was there last year. It's not like Higbee wasn't there last year. He's not like Higbee's going to do what Higbee does, but both those guys are going to be over 90 catches. It is going to be an offense where Matt Ryan is, I think, possibly going to have Kupp playing much better than he normally does. He's going to be able to throw the ball down deep. I think Kupp has an opportunity to really shine and outproduce. I love Kupp over a guy like Cooper. I love Kupp over Thielen. I think that Kupp this season has a lot of upside in my eyes, and he's someone that I'm definitely. If I'm missing Woods, I'm definitely going for Kupp. I want one of those two though for sure.
I'm taking Woods over Kupp.
I'm taking Woods over Kupp, but I'm not mad either way. And I have to have one of those wide receivers because in my mind, there is no way that Rams offense is not one of the top 5 offenses in the league, and that Matt Stafford is going to significantly outproduce that what we've seen for Goff. I think it's a huge upgrade, and I think that Matt Stafford to the Rams is really being underrated because a lot of people don't give Matt Stafford his flowers. That dude is a baller. He has an arm. He plays hurt. He hangs in the pocket. And I think that with those two guys, it could be a big season. And I think Higbee also could have a good season. I think just the Rams offense in general, I have as one of the top 5 offenses in football. Then when we go down here, we have another 3 guys that we have ranked fairly similarly. Deontay Johnson, Ayuk, and Moore. I have Moore and Ayuk over Deontay Johnson only because of volume and opportunity. I feel like Moore is going to be the number 1 wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. Ayuk is going to be the number 1 wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. Kittle is still there, who's going to eat into his target share. I think that those guys are going to be like a 1A, 1B for targets. But I think that Ayuk has a better possibility of staying healthy long term. That's why I really like Ayuk. And Johnson, I'm really worried about the volume possibilities of what's going on there in the Steelers because you have Juju, you have Claypool, you have Johnson, you have Najee, so that worries me.
But I like John just because it showed like he was a legitimate fantasy threat last year.
Yep.
I think I think you're right of how they're going to spread it out, but I think he's over Juju at this point.
Yeah, I do think he's over Juju, but his drops really, really do worry me.
That was the biggest issue. I mean, a lot of his drops, those affected him big time. Those are big drops. I'm with you on that, but can he get better than that? Can he do better? And if he does, I mean that changes things drastically as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If he keep it somewhat under control.
Yep. I definitely agree with you. And I think that's something that, is definitely going to be something to watch during preseason to see who he favors because, Juju and Claypool, I have ranked right down here at 30, 31. As we see with you, you have, I don't even think you have Juju ranked in your top 30.
No, I don't have Juju ranked.
You don't have Claypool also ranked in your top 36 receivers. So you definitely think that Johnson is going to be the only good one out of them this season, which is an interesting position.
Yeah, I don't have Juju. I have to see Juju again because those were 2 back-to-back bad years.
Yeah, I mean, last season I don't really know if you can call it a bad year for Juju, as he was still like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He was the 16th wide receiver ranked overall last season. He finished ahead of Johnson and Claypool. All 3 of them finished in the top 25 last season for scoring. I get Juju didn't have a great season last year, but I do think that.
I just think the people that you named below him that scored less are going to be above him this year. I'm looking at Robbie Anderson to be better than him, Terry McLaurin to be better, Johnson to be better, Lamb to be better than him.
He would still be a top 25 guy.
No, yeah, I guess. I mean, but I see.
And you don't have him ranked in top 36. Like I said, I think Juju's being a little bit more slept on than he should be because I do think that he offers, some really good upside. I think that.
To me, I have Robbie Anderson way higher than you do. To me, Robbie's gonna.
I got Robbie Anderson as my 34th wide receiver. You have him as your 28th, so it's only 6 spots off.
Yeah, but I think he's gonna be better than.
I think Chenault, you have him a little bit higher than I do. I do like Chenault. I do like Chenault a lot, but I like him at his discounted price. To get him at that price means that you're automatically banking on one. Lawrence being good, which is an easy bank. but two, that he becomes the number one wideout on that team. I think that's something that's definitely going to be something to watch. Another situation to watch here is in Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Chase, and Boyd. All three of them made our top 36 as well.
Yeah.
I have Chase slightly ahead of Higgins and Boyd just because of that connection that you have between the quarterback and the wide receiver here. So I definitely do think that there's a good possibility. But Higgins and Boyd all will have their opportunity. I think it's really hard to predict and project which one is going to be the best of all of these guys. One thing that I did notice here is that Lockett is someone that I have ranked here at 26, but you don't have him ranked in your top 36. So tell me how you're feeling about Lockett this year that you have him ranked so low.
Yeah, I just don't. I think the people that I put before him are going to outperform him.
Now, last year, Lockett was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He was the number 8 wide receiver on the season. He had 10 touchdowns, 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards. In that,
I again, Lockett to me is someone that either has a great game or he doesn't have a game at all. To me, that's a lot of his points came in. A lot of the beginning points came in the beginning of the season when Wilson was going off, but he disappeared towards the end. Lockett was nowhere really to be found.
And you would put guys like Chenault and Smith from Eagles and even Curtis Samuel above him.
Yeah, I would. I just think there's way more upside. Lockett to me is more on the. I don't want to say down, but I mean, he again to me. If you look at it, all his points came in the beginning of the season. He disappeared at the end.
Lockett does have 2 seasons where he's been significantly entrenched in the top 25. We're looking at top.
I'm just going by more of the end of the season where he again. I didn't see him.
I understand there. Towards the end of the season, he did have a little bit of.
I think it was more than a little bit. I think it was like 4 or 5 games in a row. Like it was just nothing.
I understand what you're saying, but you are still looking at 4, 5, 6.
And is Wilson going to have that great season they had at the beginning of the season? I don't see that happening.
So you think that Wilson is a much worse quarterback than Aaron Rodgers? I feel like that's what we're saying.
No, I don't want to say he's much worse, but I mean
it's a significant drop off because Wilson had
Wilson. How many touchdowns did he have?
40,
right? But the beginning of the season, what he was
and
it was like 5 touchdowns a game.
Before that, he had 31 before that. So how many touchdowns do you think that Wilson's going to throw? I
can see Wilson throwing in the 30s again, the lower 30s.
So Wilson is going to regress, in your opinion?
I don't know if Wilson's going to get the 40 again. Again, what you saw in the beginning of the season, like there was 3 or 4 games in a row where he had 4 touchdowns in a row. I mean, he had in 3 games he had 12 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Again, is that going to happen again for him to get? Because that's how we got to 40. Because that towards the end of the season again, Russell Wilson regressed, right? I mean, he did not play as great as he was in the beginning. It was a complete drop off. From the beginning of the season to what Wilson at the end, he was dropping off. He wasn't doing what Wilson was doing in the beginning, and there was even in the middle where you lost him again, and that's how Seattle lost games. Even Wilson was not throwing like that. To me, again, there was 3 or 4 games in a row where he managed to get 4 touchdowns every game. Again, is that Wilson going to do again to get 40? I don't see that happening. I could see him getting 30, yeah.
So you have a regression for Russell Wilson.
I mean, I could see 10 less touchdowns. Yes, 8 to 10 less touchdowns from Wilson. Yes, I could see that.
So
I could.
Oof, wow, that's a big drop for Russie.
But you're saying from
you're talking about Russell Wilson, who has been top 4 quarterback in fantasy purposes.
But I don't think it's a big. He's had 31 the year before. It's not like he's not what he has done is.
Yeah.
What I'm saying he's going to do is not like.
I feel like they started to open up the offense more than they did during those other seasons.
I get it.
What led to him, like the opening up of the offense has led him got to this point. I think with the new offensive coordinator that they have there, it's going to be more of a system where they're going to do more vertical passing, which give Russell Wilson the opportunity to eclipse or at least match I would say at least 35 touchdowns or better, I think, this season from Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is going to get over 4,000 to 4,500 yards passing. And I think this is going to be one of those seasons where Russell Wilson is going to actually be allowed to cook a little bit more with the new
So
offense.
you think he's going to get more than 40 touchdowns?
I think he's going to get 35. He's going to be 35.
I'm telling you 30. I'm telling you 31. And what I'm saying, he's going to lose, or he's not getting 40. He's going to go down.
I think it's going to be 35 or more touchdowns, and I think that his yards are going to go up. He had 4,200 yards last season. I think he'd be closer to what Tom Brady did with 46.
Again, my biggest thing is that he had an unbelievable start where they were calling him the front runner of the MVP. He had, I think if you look at the game logs, 4 or 5 games where he scored 4 touchdowns in every game. I don't know if he replicates that again to begin the season. And then again, towards the end, you saw what happened when he had to deal with being the main focal point. He regressed towards the end of the season. He went down towards the end of the season.
I mean, I don't. The fact that he didn't have a running game is very different from making him the focal point. Because you not having Chris Carson, you're not having Penny, you're not having any of those guys will impact the quarterback because it's going to change the way they play.
But I know, but you saw what happened throughout the whole season when he was still because they never had a running game, right? They never got it going, really.
Carson wasn't that bad last season.
No, but they never really got a running game going where you really had to worry. Everyone worried about Russell getting out of the pocket, running around, doing it, improvising and throwing it out to Metcalf. The running game wasn't that much of a factor for the defense as far as they're thinking, oh, we have to stop the running. No, they couldn't let Carson go loose. And that was pretty much it. The running game to me wasn't like that he had it part of the year and then he didn't have it. I mean, he pretty much played like that the whole year. I just think towards the end it caught up where, hey, I have to throw it 40-something times a game. And that catches up with someone.
I just think it was more of a situation where towards the end of the season, they're facing some good defenses because they faced Philly, they faced the Giants. They manhandled the Jets. That was a good game for them, so it really didn't matter in that game. But some of those games where they didn't do good, they had Washington, they had the Rams, they had the Giants. The Eagles had a good defensive game in that game.
Right.
But I think that's also some of the factors in it. I just think that Russ is one of those guys who he can keep getting better. I don't think he's fully reached his ceiling, and I think that with an offense that's going to come in and be a little more expansive, he could definitely be of interest. And like I said, I think I could expect at least 35 touchdowns out of Russ this upcoming season. I like Russ. I think he's going to be big, and I definitely do think that Lockett will be a top 36 receiver. He's done it for the last 2 years. I don't see him really regressing that much that he wouldn't be in the top 36. Same thing with Juju. Those 2 guys that have consistently done it, and I'll bank on them. But on that note, that is our breakdown for the top 36 wide receivers. This is our first rankings that we have for the season that we're out for you. We're going to update them. I want to say almost every 2 to 3 weeks. You'll be seeing a new rankings from us where we'll be able to give you any updates that we're seeing, any changes that we make, and we'll let you know what's going on. Ricky, tell them where they can find you and what you got cooking.
Definitely hit me up on Instagram, TDS, at TDS Ricky, on Twitter, Facebook, Ricky at TDS. Definitely give us a look. We're going to be having posts just like this, players on what we think they're going to do every week from here on in. We're going to see more of these videos, updated videos, because, again, once it gets closer to the season, things change, people get hurt, things happen. So, again, it's fluid, so we're going to try to keep it up to date for you guys. But definitely give us a look. And then, again, every day on Instagram, at TDS Ricky, at TDS Blitz, you're going to see a daily post about football here moving on forward.
Yep, TDS Blitz is where you're going to find most of our football-only content. You'll be able to find all of our content on Instagram at The Daily Sporting, where we cover all the different sports from baseball, football, basketball, and we cover some combat sports on there. You can always find me at TDS Taco. on Twitter, and you'll be able to, again, see a lot of my work here at the TDS Blitz, where we're coming hard and heavy for you this football season to make sure that you have everything you need to win your leagues. On that note, he is TDS Ricky, I am TDS Taco, and we are TDS out. Peace out.